After months of waiting, today is finally the day. The motor for the 240SX finally showed up. So I ended up throwing the intake on. This is a FD upper intake manifold. We have the full function engineering adapter plate, and then this is a GM style throttle body. It is a 92 millimeter. It should flow a lot of air. There's no more butterfly valves in here since the setup is semi-peripheral. The two intake halves on this motor is held in by titanium hardware that Chip provides, and there's no more gasket, so this is all O-rings instead. I'm running a 12A front cover just because we have the motor mounts off of the front, so that'll be easier to go and design mounts straight to our subframe. We have a fully balanced rotating assembly, and it is a full oversized studded motor. So this thing should be able to handle some really high horsepower and boost. With the addition of these two ports on the lower intake manifold, it is now a semi-peripheral engine. Inherently, with the street porting and the semi-peripheral ports, you will lose some low-end torque, so we opted to go with an RX-8 rotating assembly just to pick up some compression. In order to make the power numbers we wanted to, we opted to go with a Garrett G30 660 turbocharger. This is a 1.21 AR compressor housing, and it is full V-band. So this will make some really good power at some really high RPM. Cody's motor, which is this 13B, is going to be taken off and given back to him. And then we will put this trans onto that motor. For the Fish Racing swap kit, they include a new pilot bushing. Now the problem is, there is a needle bushing in here, a new one. And I don't have the bearing puller, so I will grab one from a friend, but for now, we can put on this really sick flywheel. I have a bunch of spare parts here. The motor needs to come off. It's only held on by like 3 or 4 bolts. It's not really even tight, just hand tight. And then once that is off, Cody can come and pick it up. So this is a 12A, and this is my 13B. So in order for me to paint this, I need to take off the intake, I need to take off the lower intake manifold, the turbo exhaust manifold, I need to take the flywheel back off, and then I am waiting for a input shaft bearing removal tool. After all of that, I can tape off some stuff. I have to take off this rear oil manifold, some other plates and stuff, but then I can paint the irons. We're going to end up painting the motor with some high temperature enamel, and then this is my primary fuel rail and my secondary fuel rail. And my primary fuel rail is gloss. This one is like a flat color, so we're gonna be spraying this in a clear as well. Okay, so now that we have the trans off of the motor, Cody can come pick that up along with his clutch. And now we can probably put this back on the shelf or just leave it here. That means it is time to take this motor apart and prep it for paint. While Kayla is fixing up this bumper to fit onto the 240, it's kind of loud in here, especially with all the air tools and everything going on. So I'm just gonna do a snap transition for this. So now the motor is basically stripped down to where we can start masking stuff off. I am going to get it off of this pallet and onto a piece of cardboard because basically everything that's underneath is going to essentially tape itself off. We still have some stuff to pull off and tape, but so far it is torn down and ready to go. Here is the motor. It's all masked off. Now we just need to paint it with the high temperature enamel, and then we're ready to put it back together. The first coat of paint is done. What you want to do is get out a flashlight and you can really see the areas that I missed. It's pretty hard to get down behind the crank angle sensor, but you can see trying to get the most coverage I can while also not trying to be too wet. So also trying to get the underside of things. Sucks. That's why I have it off the ground with the forklift, and now we just let it dry. Coming back to this piece, you can see it's nice and glossy now, which is exactly what we needed. So we can put this back together, and then this should be ready for its second coat. Before you guys say anything, I did mask off the bottom where the O-rings go in and the sides so it won't mess up any of the threads or the O-ring seats. That is the second coat, a little bit thicker than the first one just to get in all the areas that I missed before. I was up in here with a flashlight, just making sure I had good even coverage. So this is the last layer of black, and then we're going to be moving over to a nice gray color. We'll probably do one coat of this stuff just because it is a little bit metallic, and then we're going to let it sit for a few days. So behind the Miata and Ryan's 240, we have the Trans Am. So this lift, we finally got Kayla's Miata out from underneath it. Once the Trans Am is out, then my 240 can go onto this lift, and by that time, the motor will probably be dry. Yeah, so I'm super excited for that to happen. As you can see, some of Kayla's Miata angle kit stuff. So once the Trans Am is off the lift and the motor is dry, then we can mount it into the 240 with the Trans and design some motor mounts. And we're going to get those cut out of billet. So that'll be fun. I don't know if you guys noticed it at all, but that stuff laid really fast. And it lays really well. Here's with the camera on. You can see there's some kind of metallic in it. But wow. That looks way better than the black. I'm gonna let this dry for probably 15 minutes versus the 10 I was doing before, but I think the black gave it a really nice base to spray onto, and this is almost the exact color I wanted. It'll match the body of the 240 very nicely. I literally cannot wait to unwrap this thing. It's like Christmas, but sadly, we need to wait. And we're also out of time. So on the next episode, we'll get the 240 put in over there. We'll unwrap the motor, we'll assemble it, and maybe we'll design some motor mounts. But thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'll see you in the next one.